Hey everyone, welcome to today's early access review. We're going to look at Nova Drift. And remember, this is early access, so the game could change drastically or, not change even one bit. Nova Drift is a space shooter that instills the mechanical depth of an action RPG into classic arcade space combat. Or at least, that's what the Steam page says. And I agree with at least one bit of it. It is an arcade space shooter. It's not a shoot 'em up, and it's not a bullet hell game. For me, one of the reasons I wanted to try out Nova Drift is because it looks like a really cool game. It's pretty much Asteroids, but significantly more colorful and with a little bit more going on. Basically, the game just looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. There seemed to be many different weapons that you can choose from, different ways that you can approach the game, and on paper, it sounds like you would be able to customize a lot and tackle this game in a wide variety of different ways. When I started the game out, the controls felt a little weird to me, and I think that's just because I'm not used to Asteroid-style movement. I'm used to having a more simple and fluid control where forward means forward all the time and you don't have to rotate your ship to move in a different direction. So, the concept of having a customizable ship that goes through endless waves of space combat sounds pretty awesome. Unfortunately, with Nova Drift, the gameplay actually wound up being incredibly repetitive. Once you go through the game once and you get through most of the bosses, which honestly only took me 2 tries to get through, it just feels like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe you want to sit down and shoot the same waves of enemies over and over and over and over again. However, for me, that's just honestly not appealing, and I feel like there could have been more diversity in the actual gameplay. So what they actually did do was they offered different challenges that you could unlock, and then each one of these challenges you could apply to the game that you were about to play. You apply them by stacking on whichever challenges you want to the game that you're about to enter. If you want to max out the challenges, you can put every single challenge on one game, and you would think that would actually make it more challenging. When in reality, the opposite is actually true. The more challenges that you stacked on, the easier the game actually seemed to get. And that's because every time you stack on a challenge, you get more experience. And none of the challenges actually change the game drastically enough for it to make the game more difficult. So by adding on challenges, you're actually, for the most part, making your life easier, and also making it a lot easier to just boost your score up. And that's the thing, the only real goal in this game is to boost your score up. Technically, you could turn Endless Mode off, and there's probably an ending somewhere in the game. I didn't try it. I probably should have, but I didn't. So the only real goal, as with most arcade games in general, is to achieve as high a score as you possibly can. Now, I said that adding on challenges doesn't actually increase the difficulty. So, what does increase the difficulty? The game seems to get drastically more difficult as you actually progress through it and unlock more abilities, which is sort of counter to what most games do, or at least how most games are balanced. As you unlock more abilities, it actually becomes more and more difficult for you to complete or go in a direction of any specific build. You can always re-roll the skills that you're given whenever you level up, but for the most part, there's just this giant pool of new and potentially useless skills for whatever it is that you are trying to do in that specific game, that it actually becomes more and more difficult to get the ideal build that you're aiming for. And as a result, this can make a lot of games that you play significantly more difficult. My highest scores were actually achieved before I had unlocked a lot of the abilities in this game, because I was able to reliably generate the same build over and over again and work on how effective that build was. As I unlocked more skills, I had to focus on a couple of different builds, try out new things, and honestly, it wasn't enjoyable because a lot of the skills and a lot of the abilities in this game are just bad. As you get further, you eventually start to unlock supermods. And what supermods do is they add on a very large benefit to your build. And unfortunately, they're really hard to use, because you need to get really lucky to get the skills you need progressively to actually unlock them and be able to fit them into a build. So basically, one of the potentially coolest aspects of this game is honestly just locked behind luck. And I feel like this sort of all pools together to just Make it so that there isn't a whole lot of replayability to this game. Once you've got a score that you're satisfied with, once you've played through a couple hundred waves, there's nothing left for you to really do. You could aim to do something really cool, but the fact that it's locked behind RNG makes it a not so appealing prospect for me. Why would I want to fantasize about this amazing build that I could make if I might have to play the game 30 times just to get the correct skills in the right order so that I can survive long enough to actually make it to the end of that build? It's just a frustrating experience. So with all of that said, this is still an early access game. I've said some relatively negative things, so there's always the potential that the developer could, change the game, improve the game, and turn it into something that's a little bit better. But I honestly don't know how that can be done, because at its core, the premise of the game is that it's an arcade shooter. That's fundamentally not going to change, and I feel like there's only so much you can do when you box yourself into that genre. Because no matter how you look at it, every time you come back to this game, whether it's early access or a fully developed product, the gameplay is going to remain pretty much the same that it is right now. It can't fundamentally change that much. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see how a game like this turns into something that's better than what it currently is. Sure, you could add some more skills, you could add some more challenges, you could add more creative enemies, but you're still going to be bombarding yourself with endless waves and builds that you can't necessarily progress through. Anyways, that's Nova Drift, and I wanted this game to be a lot better than it actually was, because I've been looking forward to this game for a while. I saw this game and I thought, wow, that looks really cool. This could be an amazing game. It just didn't pan out. Honestly, I feel like I couldn't recommend this game to anybody. I feel like I enjoyed it for maybe 30 minutes, and then every other second that I spent on this game was just tedious and monotonous, and I felt like I just had to keep playing for the sake of this review. I didn't actually enjoy it in any way. And remember, this is just in my opinion. If you disagree, feel like I've left something out, or just want to suggest another game for me to review, leave a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and check back weekly for more reviews.